Today, how to fill out a lead-based paint disclosure. So I'm going to pop in here to Transaction Desk and show you a little bit about how this works. So again, on the right we have our big three, which are forms, documents, and the checklist. And I'm going to click on forms here today, and I'm going to add a lead-based paint disclosure. So basically every form that we have in the MLS all throughout Florida is right here in Transaction Desk. Really nice and handy to have. What we're going to have here is a lead-based paint warning statement. We have a lead information packet, and we have complying with lead law, disclosure of information about lead, and what we want is the lead-based paint disclosure right or P. This is what we're looking for. I'll click and add that. And I'm going to comment on the lead-based paint disclosure because it is one of the worst documents ever drafted in the history of the world. And the reason I believe this is because there are, let's count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 places for buyers, sellers, and agents to sign. That's pretty intense. I think that this document could be rewritten much simpler, much more plainly, and not require all this, initials and signatures and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to start by stating that almost every lead-based paint disclosure I've ever seen is filled out incorrectly. I'm going to note here that the seller needs to disclose whether there is known lead-based paint or they have no knowledge. 99 out of 100 times, seller will have no knowledge of lead-based paint because they haven't done a lead-based paint test. You would have to test to know of lead-based paint. So they will need to click this box, and both sellers will need to initial A. Next, I'll note that the seller has provided the buyer with available reports if they have reports. If they don't, seller has no reports. Again, very often sellers do not have reports. And again, on B, line B, both sellers, let's say person A and person B, must execute. Now, buyers must initial all C, D, and E. So buyers will both buyers, buyer 1, buyer 2, will state buyer has received a copy, buyer has received the pamphlet, which was previously in Transaction Desk here, and then E, the buyer has received an opportunity to conduct a risk assessment or waived the opportunity to conduct a risk assessment. Next, the licensee for the seller, the listing agent, will need to initial F. That's also listing licensee will need to sign here. Seller signs, seller 2 signs. Buyer signs, buyer 2 signs, and other agent signs the selling licensee. So as you can see, what a disaster. Did we say 16 different spots? So be very careful here. You will get these sent over from sellers without the boxes checked. You will get them without both sellers initialing. You will get them without both sellers initialing both A and B. Buyers will send it back having missed these initials. Licensees will not initial here. Licensees won't sign. So be careful. There's 16 possible spots here for somebody to miss a spot. I'm just going to go ahead and sign this right now, show you Authenticign, and what that looks like. I'm going to add participants. Click on Add. Add new participant. Add old John Smith here. And boom, John is added. John is going to be our seller number 1. I'm then going to click on Design the Form. As you can see, what's going to happen here is all those indicated spots are going to be lit up. This is the nice thing about Transaction Desk. We're already not going to mess this up because we got boom, 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 and boom ready to go. Now again, This is only 4 of the 16 spots, but as you can see how helpful this is. Okay. Now, again, we're ready to go with this form if this was only one seller filling it out. If we had 2 sellers and 2 buyers, as you can imagine, there'd be denotated spots everywhere. And then again, as licensee, I still need to sign as well. So this is a short version training of how a lead-based paint is supposed to be filled out. But again, remember, all of these boxes need to be checked, initialed, signed everywhere. Very thorough document, especially if something was built, obviously, before 1978. We're going to need this, and we're going to need it filled out correctly. In all the years I've had buying and selling real estate, being a broker in 2 different states over almost 20 years, I can tell you that I did have a house that had lead-based paint. So you need to be careful. And what happens is children, for example, will chew on a windowsill and will get sick from the lead. And so you got to be super careful. It does happen. Now, again, this is one example in literally probably 1,000 transactions, but you want to be prepared for the 1 in 1,000. So thanks for tuning in today, guys. As you're dragging and dropping and moving through all these documents, just take a little bit of time. Please be as careful as you can. And as always, there's a help desk here. There's a help desk here, a line that you can call anytime you have a transaction desk issue. You can call the helpline, which is this number right here. And if you have any brokerage level or attorney level questions, please always feel free to pick up the phone and call me as well. If you're having problems with clicking a box or checking a box, Wednesday's